And now for a review of the game that isn't completely and totally rambling. I do mean to do them properly when I'm reciting at the credits, and I just never ends up working out. So, anyway, Darksiders review, the good parts of it. I like the gameplay, and you have to actually choose your equipment quite carefully and sit there and think about it instead of just slap whatever has the biggest numbers onto it. I got that way towards the end of the game. I was just trying to, increase critical chance as high as I could get it. Wasn't getting very far, not doing too much damage, and started playing around with it, increased strength quite a bit, and suddenly I was doing a whole lot more damage, even though critical hit rate and the damage from it went down slightly. You could probably tell watching that last video I was doing a lot more damage because I've been playing around in the Crucible a great deal, just testing things out. It is nice that you also have this choice between magic damage and just straight damage from the size and the weapons. Uh, that you have certain attacks that do arcane damage, and you can increase chances off that, which are generally a lot more than just the base physical damage. In the long run, it tends not to work very well, but the thought is there, and it does actually have some use. The legendary weapons also have a lot of special traits that you can't just ignore completely. They do need to explain what they are a little bit more, but they also work quite well, and if you just read the descriptions, they're pretty easy to figure out what they do. Um, to get away from the game mechanics themselves and the characters, the motivations are a lot better. Death's journey to save his brother is a lot more meaningful than War's trying to fix some bureaucratic nightmare. And just, I could never take the first game seriously for this. If the apocalypse is this big a deal, they should need to watch those switches a little bit more carefully than what they did, rather than just let everybody run around. And yeah, it blew up quite obviously, but it's just hard to believe anyone would be that stupid. For Death himself, I do like the fact that he's a complete asshole to pretty much everyone he meets. Uh, they'll go up to him, I have all kinds of problems, and he quite literally says, I don't care. I, it's a lot better than this nice guy syndrome where it doesn't matter what problems people has. They have the hero will take time out of his day to go help them, even if his quest is a lot more important, like save the world. Oh, someone has to go save Mittens from the tree, and they'll go do it. Yeah, there's a reward always involved. It just feels a bit jarring when you're doing it occasionally. His interactions with some of the characters, especially Chance, are also quite nice. You can sit there and laugh at his, Death's just getting the better of him in every particular exchange, no matter how hard the Chancellor tries. My only regret during the game is you can't actually kill him, but I kind of see that coming up in Darksiders 3. Be a more abstract point in the story. I do like the symbolism. It's not dramatically overstated, but it's quite nice and is there. You have the color blue in water standing in for good, red in fire for evil, and it does set these worlds up to be quite different in very subtle ways. You have the makers using both water and fire to make things, being completely indifferent to good and evil. They're just building things where the morality of it is just beyond them. They just don't care. They build, and that's it. And then you have the land of the dead, where both blue and red are completely absent. It's just green and white. Good and evil have no bearing in death. It's just completely gone. There's something that the dead no longer have any concern over. Their life is finished. Then Lost Light, of course, has a great deal of blue and gold imagery and a lot of water too, to really set them up for being the angels. And of course, Shadow's Edge is a big lava lake with lots of red and fire and being the traditional hell. It's subtle and it's quite effective, and I do like it for that. Most games really try to hammer in the symbolism. There's a rare few that can actually do it quite nicely, and this is actually rather pleasant. It's especially noticeable in the Land of the Makers when you're going through and fixing like the Drench Fort, and the dungeons will change color depending on what you've fixed so far. And from the good to the bad, the padding. I mentioned this in the Land of the Dead and a few times from there on out, because boy was it obvious. It really got bad when you had to assemble those dead lords, because it's just another set of getting three, and then in the middle of it you got to go find three more things, and just it goes on, and it should have just stopped before then. And ultimately that quest ends up being nothing. You assemble the lords, Bone King just kills them out of hand. What was the point of it? Really, they could have just cut it, and probably should have. If they'd taken, that quest, the time they'd taken to do that quest and put it further into the game, it would have made things a lot better. especially since beforehand you had to go, find what the 3 stones to summon the champion, beat his face in, go talk to the King of the Dead, find 3 more guys in the middle of it, find another 3 things. The nested quests in there were just far too much. Someone should have told them, just stop. It especially makes Land of the Dead feel really, really long. It's at least a third to half of the game when you think about it. And on that point, you've got Shadow's Edge on the other side, which is basically 1 dungeon, and that's it. That 1 dungeon was not terribly long, and it was very, very gimmicky at that. The time travel upgrade you got at the very end was just... It's an obvious plot coupon. It doesn't do anything in the earlier gameplay. You just use it in that dungeon. All it is to advance through their little gimmick that had already been destroyed. You need to go back in time and just... You never see those little portals anywhere else. Why would you install them in your evil Doom Fortress anyway? So it's just hard to believe at that point. And they clearly just run out of time. We're just trying to figure out something to do there. Especially since it's an upgrade to an earlier piece of equipment you got. And it's just, there's literally no point to it, especially at the end of the game, because after you finish Shadow's Edge, you're on to the final boss. He's not that hard. And to speak further on the final boss, boy was that insulting. Like, I know you've put up with gamers put up a lot going through that, but the final boss should be somewhat challenging. Yeah, I ground up, had some nice equipment, but that was pathetic. I had far harder trouble with pretty much every other boss in the game. I don't even think I used a health potion. I'd go look it up, but I'm pretty sure I didn't. The backstory itself is another long-running problem with this series. In the first game you get told, well, this Nephilim just came out of nowhere and was so far more ancient than everyone else. In this game they get retconned. Everybody knows where they came from. There was a whole lot of them. Now there's just 4. It's a big difference, and it tells me that the people who wrote the backstory up for the game did not expect it to be a success, were not planning for it to be a success, and when they got called for a sequel, really just had to run around and try to get something together. Which is and another point that I brought up during the Let's Play. I think it was the Muppet, what's his name, Goth guy, was talking about it. If the Nephilim are running around conquering all these realms, why did Death and the other 3 suddenly decide, no, not this one, we've gone too far? More rationale would have been nice. From the way it sounds, he's just objected to the conquering. But it's the previous sentence said, well, they were conquering everybody. Like, I kind of need a reason why this place was so different. And also the Nephilim little subplot, it pops up towards the end, pretty much the end, and it's pretty clear Death just isn't interested in bringing them back. All the other characters are telling him, yes, you really are, and you just hear nothing out of him. So as far as it's concerned, it really just looks like they're delusional and not paying attention to what he's saying or doing. He's also gone through so much, he's not going to back off. Things to improve. It'll likely not be with THQ, as they've recently defaulted on a loan. It's likely they're going to have to sell the Darksiders IP off, because I don't think Darksiders 2 did as well as they were hoping. Which admittedly was pretty much needed a blockbuster hit in order to survive. It'd probably be EA who will just, whore it out, giving them a game per year and just run the franchise straight into the ground. But assuming Evil Acquisition doesn't get it, or they behave like normal human beings for once, things to improve upon it. They really need to balance the worlds better. The Maker's Land was, nice in terms of how much was main quest, how much was side quest, and things to see and do. Land of the Dead got very, very bloated with main quest and a lot of places to run around and see, and it's really detrimental to the rest of the game. Lost Light doesn't have very much. There's a side quest where you run back, talk to somebody in a previous world, go back, run back to someone else in another world, and then run back to the quest giver, and that's it. That's your side quest. And then you run off to the main dungeon, or not really the main dungeon directly, you go back to Earth to find the three more pieces of something, and then go on to the main dungeon. It's not very involved, and it's pretty clear they're running out of games and idea at this point in time. And of course, Shadow's Edge being just 1 dungeon is just really quite jarring when you've had a decent-sized world up till then. They also need to clean up the backstory quite significantly. It just doesn't make any coherent sense, and it is largely due to the fact I think they just didn't have any idea where to go with the series. They kind of pitched it as a one-off idea. Oh, it's successful. Now we need to figure out where we're going with this. For the game balance, most of it is in fact good, but later towards the end of the game, Arcane really falls behind in its usefulness. Yeah, it's a lot easier to get criticals with them off the weapons, but the damage is never very high no matter what you do. Also, the skill trees, it really starts dropping off in usefulness. Those ghouls don't take much more than 1 or 2 hits, whereas earlier in the game they usually take about 4 or 5. You can improve them significantly, but it's sinking more points into just keeping them alive and not doing anything else because they don't do a whole lot of damage. You can stuff more points in them so they do area of effect damage just by existing, exploding damage, but it's principally just sinking points into keeping them useful instead of trying to expand upon the other skills you can have. The crows are not bad, principally because I don't think they can be attacked directly. You can heal off of them, they do a fair amount of damage. Even if they don't stick around very long, they typically out-damage the ghouls. There's a couple other ones that are nice. The shield and the strength increase are both limited to 8 seconds. You can pick up another skill that will keep it around longer, but it's still not enough to really help. So you'll get a main point and then try to sink points in it just to keep it good when it's really not quite worth it. Especially the shield, because you principally have to plan on getting hit in order to get any use out of it. Otherwise, you wasted the wrath. Not really a good idea. Things they can do in character design. They need to get rid of the stripper battle dress. I mean, those little banshee things, whatever they were showing obvious cleavage. They need to get rid of stuff like that. I'm sick of seeing it. Yes, I know it's very common. I'm tired of being told that this woman warrior who's greatly respected is wearing a bikini. Fury is especially bad about that. I've seen the concept art. She's wearing high heels, bra, and panties. Come on. Everyone else is wearing something that resembles armor. You can kind of follow that up. So, in review, it is a good game and I do recommend it. It does have its sticking points. If you just wanted, a game where you can just run around and kill things with putting some thought into it as well, this is the good game for you. It's obviously not something to be recommend on story. It's pretty much the equivalent of a blockbuster movie. Turn your brain off, watch people blow up. It's nice for what it is. It could use some improvement. But, any further on the story and you're pretty much running into another kind of genre, and yeah, you don't really want to do that, so. I hope this review is somewhat informative, or at least better than the one I ran over the game. I think this one's running longer, at least, so. I'll try to do reviews like this on a weekly basis, but it's probably not going to work out. Probably a little bit more than a week or whenever I have time, so. Whenever I do these again, bye.